The Clock Beneath the Sleeping City. Part 1. The city was called Lytham on Stone by the old maps, but most people simply called it the Quiet City because it had a talent for lowering voices without anyone noticing. Even the sea, only a few streets away, seemed to hush itself when the lamps came on. On that night, the lamps glowed like small honey-colored moons. Their light fell softly on wet cobblestones, and the air smelled of rain on limestone, a clean mineral scent that made the lungs feel rinsed. A slow wind moved through narrow alleys, carrying the faint sweetness of late-blooming night flowers from hidden courtyards, and the distant rhythmic sigh of waves that never quite reached the ear all at once, only in gentle pieces. He was a watchmaker, not famous, not important, the kind of man a city could forget while still trusting him with time. His name was Elias Venn, and his hands were steady in the way of people who have spent years holding delicate things. He lived above his shop, where clocks and small gears sat in neat rows like patient listeners. He was not lonely exactly. He simply had a life arranged in quiet compartments. Work, tea, sleep, work again. But lately, sleep had become selective. At first, it was a tiny interruption, nothing dramatic. He would wake once a night, always at the same minute, with the same sensation, as if a sound had brushed past his dream without fully entering it. He would sit up, listen, and hear nothing but the city doing its ordinary nighttime breathing, the whisper of wind, the occasional creak of a settling building, the soft drip of water from gutter to stone. Then he noticed his wall clock. It began losing time. Not much, only a minute here, a minute there. Elias repaired it twice, then replaced it. The replacement lost time too. Then the smaller clocks. Then the old ship's chronometer he kept for sentimental reasons, inherited from a sailor uncle. Each one, in its own shy way, started slipping behind. It was not the kind of problem a watchmaker could ignore without feeling personally offended. He tried to blame the weather. Humidity could swell wood, disturb mechanisms. A sudden cold could thicken oil. A coastal city had moods. Clocks were allowed to be moody too. Yet the pattern held, as precise as any gear tooth. Every night, the losses happened in the same narrow window, a window that aligned with the moment Elias woke, as if the city itself was doing something with time when no one was watching. The next day, he asked around in the careful, casual way of a man pretending he was not worried. At the bakery, the woman behind the counter laughed softly and said, "Maybe your clocks are tired. They work too hard." At the harbor, the fisherman shrugged and said, "The sea plays tricks, always has." At the pub, an old man with a face like cracked leather squinted at Elias and muttered, "You shouldn't listen to the ground." That sentence landed like a pebble dropped into still water. Elias walked home under a sky the color of deep ink, with thin clouds moving like slow thoughts. He tried to shake off the old man's words, but they followed him, step for step, the way certain phrases do when they are both absurd and strangely accurate. That night, he prepared for sleep like someone preparing for a test. He cleaned his shop, not because it needed cleaning, but because order was comforting. He brewed a weak tea with chamomile and something faintly citrus, and the steam rose in a sleepy ribbon. He checked each lock twice. He placed a notebook by his bed with a pencil sharpened enough to make sharp truth on paper. Then he lay down. Imagine, if you can, that you are lying there too, under a blanket that is warm but not heavy, hearing the city settle. Imagine the edge of sleep approaching, like a slow tide. Imagine how safe it feels, how ordinary, how gentle. And then imagine waking up because something beneath the world has shifted. Elias opened his eyes. The room was dark, but not completely. A thin stripe of moonlight slid through a crack in the curtain, painting a pale line on the floorboards. The air was cool, tasting faintly of metal and salt. He listened. At first, nothing. Then, so faint it could have been his own heartbeat. A tick. Not from any clock in the room. Not from the shop below. It was deeper than that. It was a sound that seemed to come from the stone itself, from the bones of the city. Tick. A pause that felt measured. Tick. Elias held his breath. The sound did not grow louder, but it grew clearer, as if his mind was tuning itself to the frequency of the underground. Tick. A gentle, patient insistence. A rhythm that did not hurry. And in that rhythm, Elias felt something else. A pull. Not physical, but curious, like the tug of a story you cannot stop reading. He sat up, bare feet finding the cold floor. As he moved, the stripe of moonlight trembled on the boards. Somewhere outside, a cat yowled once, then fell silent. The city remained asleep, wrapped in its own calm, unaware of the small rebellion happening in a watchmaker's chest. Elias went downstairs. The shop smelled of wood polish and old paper, familiar and soothing. The clocks on the wall stood like dark faces, each one holding its own quiet. He approached them with a lamp, lifting the flame carefully, and watched their hands. They were moving, but they were moving, reluctantly, as if they were trying to keep pace with something else. The underground tick continued, steady and slow, like a lighthouse beam passing beneath the streets. Elias pressed his palm to the floor. The wood was cool. Beneath it, the stone was colder. And beneath the stone, he could swear he felt it. There was a faint vibration, like a sleeping engine idling. Tick, tick. The sound held him there for a long moment, and he realized with a soft, uncomfortable clarity. This was not a broken clock. This was a working clock, a very large one. A clock the city had forgotten existed. But in truth, a deeper secret hid behind it. The next morning, Elias did what quiet men do when they cannot ignore a thing. He went looking for a person who might know. He chose Mara Quill. Mara was the city archivist, the keeper of old records and older silences. Her office sat in the shadow of the cathedral, where the stone walls held cool air even in summer. She was the kind of woman who spoke gently, but whose eyes made people tell the truth by accident. Elias entered the archive with the careful posture of someone entering a place that deserved respect. The room smelled of dust and dried ink. Sunlight filtered through high windows, making the air look thick with floating gold. The shelves were tall, packed tight with boxes, books, rolls of maps tied with faded string. Mara looked up from a desk scattered with papers. Elias Venn, she said, as if his name was an object she had just remembered existed. What brings you here? Has the cathedral clock finally decided to die again? It hasn't died, Elias said. It's slowing. Mara's pen paused, a small stillness that meant something. Many things slow, she replied. People, rivers, promises. This is different. He told her about waking at the same minute, about the slipping time, about the underground tick. As he spoke, he noticed her face did not show surprise. Not exactly. It showed something closer to recognition, like hearing a melody she'd once known, long ago, and wished she'd forgotten. Mara stood, moved to a cabinet, and pulled out a drawer with practiced ease. She took out a slim folder, the paper worn at the edges. I was hoping, she said softly, you wouldn't come here about this. Elias felt his throat tighten. So it's real. Mara opened the folder. Inside were sketches, old, careful drawings of tunnels beneath the city, notes in cramped handwriting, a diagram of a circular chamber with something enormous at its center. At the bottom of the page, in faded ink, a title, The Underclock. Elias leaned closer. The ink smelled faintly of vinegar and age. What is it? He whispered. Mara's voice lowered as if the shelves might listen. "It's what the city used before it trusted the sky," she said. "Before it trusted the sun. Before it trusted the people." Elias stared. "A clock? That runs the city?" Mara did not answer immediately. She walked to the window and looked out at the street below. People passed with bread and parcels. A child skipped. A dog trotted behind a man with a hat too big for his head. Life, bright and ordinary, unaware. Then she turned back. "It was built after the Great Sleep," she said. Elias frowned. "The Great Sleep?" Mara sighed, the sound like paper folding. "You've heard the story," she said. "The old tale they tell children so they'll go to bed. That once, long ago, the city fell asleep for a whole day and a whole night. And when it woke, everyone pretended nothing happened." Elias had heard it. Everyone had. It was the kind of folklore that sat in the background of a place, like a stain in the stone, seen, but not discussed. Mara tapped the folder. "That wasn't a fairy tale," she said. "It was an event. And afterward, the people who survived decided they needed safeguards." Elias felt a small chill that had nothing to do with temperature. "What kind of safeguards?" Mara's eyes held his. "Time," she said. "Regulated time, controlled time. Time that could not be influenced by panic, by grief, by whatever caused the Great Sleep." Elias swallowed. "And the Underclock did that?" "Yes." Mara hesitated. "Until it didn't." Elias looked down at the sketch again. The chamber. The mechanism at its center. The notes. "Why would it start now?" he asked. "Why would it tick again? Who turned it on?" Mara's fingers traced the edge of the paper like she could feel the past through it. "No one turns it on," she said. "It turns itself. When it decides it's needed." Elias's voice came out smaller. "Needed for what?" Mara's answer was not immediate. Instead, she opened a second page in the folder. This one was not a sketch, but a list of names. Hundreds of names. Elias leaned in, eyes scanning. "These are people who didn't wake," Mara said. Elias's stomach tightened. "From the Great Sleep?" Mara nodded once. "Some were found in beds," she continued, her voice calm but heavy. "Some at tables, with cups still in their hands. Some in streets, as if they'd simply sat down and surrendered to the pavement." Elias tried to speak, but his mouth was dry. "Do you know what the strangest part was?" Mara asked. Elias shook his head. Mara's gaze drifted away, as if watching something far behind Elias's shoulder. "The city kept moving," she said. "The waves kept breaking. The wind kept blowing. The clocks kept ticking. But people were quiet, as if the world had decided to keep living without them for a while." Elias imagined it. Streets full of sleeping bodies. A city like a paused song. He forced himself to ask, "What does this have to do with me?" Mara closed the folder gently. "Because you hear it," she said. "Most people don't. They sleep through it, or they wake and forget. But you woke and remembered." Elias's hands curled slightly, as if holding invisible gears. "So, what happens if the Underclock is awake?" Mara stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Then the city is being measured," she said. "And if it is being measured, it is being judged." But in truth, a deeper secret hid behind it. That night, Elias did not drink tea. He did not clean. He simply sat in his shop, listening to the ordinary sounds, the faint crackle of the stove, the soft scrape of paper as he turned a page of Mara's copied notes, the distant laugh of someone in the street who still believed the world was simple. As midnight approached, the air thickened with that particular kind of quiet that feels like a blanket. Outside, fog rolled in from the sea, turning street lamps into hazy halos. The smell of salt and damp stone filled the shop, and somewhere, a bell buoy moaned softly, a lonely, rounded sound. Elias held Mara's sketch of the tunnels in his hands. There was an access point marked beneath an old public bathhouse, long closed, its entrance bricked up after a fire decades ago. Elias knew the place. Everyone did. People avoided it without knowing why. At exactly the minute he had come to expect, Elias felt his eyes grow heavy, not with sleep, with pressure. It was as if the air itself was encouraging him to surrender. Tick. There it was again, clearer than before, rising through the floorboards like a patient finger tapping from below. Tick, tick. Elias stood. His legs felt strangely calm, as if his body had already decided what it would do. He put on a coat, took a lantern, and slipped out into the fog. The street swallowed him gently. In the fog, sound behaved differently. Footsteps did not echo. They softened. The city's edges blurred into a dreamlike corridor. Elias walked past closed shops, sleeping windows. A stray dog curled beneath a bench like a comma in the night. Imagine, for a moment, that you are walking beside him. Your breath visible, your shoulders relaxed. The world quiet enough that your own thoughts sound loud. Imagine how the fog makes everything feel distant and safe, like nothing can reach you quickly. And yet, imagine the feeling that something is waiting below. The bathhouse stood at the end of a narrow lane, its bricks darker with moisture. The boarded windows looked like sealed eyelids. Elias found the side door, the one the sketches indicated would still open if the old hinges hadn't rusted entirely. He placed his palm against the wood. It was cold and it smelled faintly of soot, as if the memory of fire still lived in the grain. He pushed. The door groaned, but it opened. Inside, the air was stale, thick with dust and old humidity. Elias lifted the lantern. Its light caught drifting motes, like tiny, slow insects. The floor was cracked tile, damp in places. The walls held faint traces of mosaic, blue and gold shapes that once suggested waves and fish, now faded into ghost patterns. Tick. The underground sound was louder here, not louder in volume, but closer in presence, like standing near a sleeping animal and feeling its breath. Elias moved deeper, following the map. Behind a collapsed partition, beneath a layer of broken tiles, he found it. A round iron hatch with a wheel handle. It was covered in grime and spiderwebs. A faint line of moisture traced its edge, as if it had been weeping slowly for years. He grabbed the wheel. It resisted. He tried again, putting weight into it. The metal scraped, a harsh sound in the soft air. Then it turned. The hatch released with a sigh that felt almost human. A cold draft rose from the hole, carrying a smell that made Elias's stomach tighten. Old stone, mineral dampness, and something faintly metallic, like blood on a coin. He lifted the hatch. Darkness opened beneath him, deep and absolute. Tick. It came from there. Elias lowered the lantern. The light revealed a spiral stair descending into black, the steps slick with age. The walls were stone, carved, narrow. Each breath Elias took sounded too loud. He began to descend. Step, step. The air cooled as he went down, and the smell shifted. Less dust, more earth. Water dripped somewhere, slow and steady, like a second wetter metronome. Shadows clung to the stairwell, moving slightly as the lantern swayed. Tick, tick. With each turn of the spiral, the sound grew clearer, until it was no longer a distant tick, but a presence, a rhythm that seemed to pulse in Elias's bones. He reached the bottom. A tunnel stretched ahead, arched and narrow, the floor uneven stone. The lantern's light reached only so far. Beyond it, the darkness waited patiently. And there, faintly, carved into the tunnel wall, were symbols. Old marks, worn by time. One of them looked like a circle with a line through it, like a clock hand frozen. Elias touched it. The stone was colder than ice, and as his fingers rested there, he felt something he did not expect. A gentle warmth. Not from the stone, from beneath it. As if the underclock was not merely a machine, as if it was awake. But in truth, a deeper secret hid behind it. Elias walked until the tunnel widened into a chamber. The room was enormous, round like the inside of a buried dome. The lantern's light floated uselessly in the vastness, but it revealed enough to steal his breath. In the center of the chamber stood the underclock. It was not made of brass and neat gears like a watchmaker's pride. It was made of iron ribs and stone teeth, a mechanism that looked half engine, half cathedral organ. Thick chains disappeared into the ceiling. Massive gears turned with a slow dignity, their edges worn smooth by time. And at the heart of it all, a pendulum, huge, heavy, swung back and forth, its motion so calm it felt almost comforting. Tick, tick. Each swing produced the sound Elias had heard, but here, in its birthplace, it was not merely a tick, it was a voice. Elias stepped closer. The air around the underclock was warmer, humming faintly. He realized the vibration he had felt through his floorboards was nothing compared to this. Here, the rhythm entered the chest, the teeth, the mind. And then, in the space between ticks, he heard something else. A whisper. Not words exactly. More like the shape of words. Like a dream trying to remember itself. Elias's throat tightened. He raised the lantern higher, and the light found something on the far wall of the chamber. Something that made him stop. There were alcoves. Dozens of them. And inside them, arranged neatly like offerings, were beds. Old, narrow beds. Some with blankets folded, some with pillows. Elias felt his stomach turn. He walked toward the nearest alcove. The blanket on the bed looked recently disturbed, as if someone had risen from it not long ago. Dust lay everywhere, but here the dust was thinner, as if brushed away by movement. Elias reached out, fingers hovering above the fabric. It smelled faintly of lavender, fresh lavender. His skin prickled. No one came here. No one should even know it existed. So why did it smell like someone had been sleeping? Elias turned back toward the underclock, his lantern shaking slightly. And there, etched into the iron frame, he saw a word in old script. Mara had shown him the same script in the archives, but seeing it here felt different. Here it felt alive. The word was simple. Wake. Elias took a step back. The underclock ticked, steady as breath. Tick, tick. And the whisper returned, stronger now, as if the machine had noticed him. He tried to tell himself it was his imagination, that his fear was painting sound into silence. But then the pendulum slowed, only slightly, just enough that a watchmaker would notice. Elias froze. The pendulum swung again, slower. And in that slow, deliberate movement, Elias felt something like a tension, as if the underclock was not counting time, as if it was counting people. A soft click echoed in the chamber. Elias spun toward the sound. One of the alcove beds, far across the room, shifted, the blanket rising as if a body had moved beneath it. Elias's heart hammered, short and sharp. He lifted the lantern. The blanket rose again, then fell. Tick, tick. Elias swallowed hard, forcing himself to breathe in a slow rhythm, the way one does when trying not to wake a child or a sleeping animal. Imagine, for a moment, you are standing there too, lantern light trembling, the vast chamber breathing around you. Imagine the strange comfort of the ticking, even as fear tries to rise. Imagine how your body wants to run, but the sound insists on calm. And then imagine this question forming in your mind, unavoidable. If the city fell asleep once before, Was it because the underclock failed? Or because it succeeded? Elias stepped backward. His heel brushed something on the stone floor. A small object, cold and smooth. He bent, picked it up. It was a pocket watch. Old, beautifully made. And on its back, engraved in tiny letters, was a name, Mara Quill. Elias's breath caught. He stared at it, then toward the beds, then back to the underclock. His mind tried to assemble sense from pieces that refused to fit. Why would Mara's watch be here? Why would a blanket smell of fresh lavender? Why would the underclock be waking now? And why? Why did it feel like the machine was waiting for him to understand something before it decided what to do next? Elias held the watch in his palm. It was warm, as if it had just been worn, as if someone had been here moments ago, as if someone was still here. The pendulum swung, slower. Tick, a long pause. Tick. Elias felt the chamber tilt, just slightly, like a ship shifting underfoot. He looked up. One of the massive chains above the underclock trembled. Then another. A low, deep groan rolled through the stone, as if the city itself had stirred in its sleep. Elias backed toward the tunnel entrance. But the lantern light caught the wall again, and he saw something he hadn't noticed before. A second door. Not the tunnel he came through. A door of iron, half hidden behind the underclock's frame, and carved into it, the same old script, for those who do not wake. Elias's fingers tightened around Mara's pocket watch. He stared at the door. He stared at the pendulum, slowing, and in that moment, the city above felt very far away, like a dream he might not return to if he made the wrong choice. Because now there were only two questions, heavy and unavoidable. Would Elias open the iron door, or flee before the underclock decided the city needed another great sleep? But when dawn arrived, who would reveal the true purpose of the clock beneath the sleeping city?